I want to show you another really useful part of masking, which is animating the mask. It's not entirely intuitive from the very get-go, so I just want to show really quickly how to do it, just in case you ever feel like you need to animate the masking that you've done on a clip to better your stitch. So in order to understand how masking can animate, it's best to first understand how the states work. And usually they're pretty intuitive on other tracks, but I feel like it's a little bit different for masking. Maybe it's just in my head, but either way I'll explain how it works. So basically everything is currently in state 1. There are no keyframes or anything added to the timeline here. And in order to create two states, you basically need to make a cut and double click there on the timeline and it will make state 1 and state 2. However, in order to animate masking, we want to make sure that we actually create all those mask points that we'll want to animate with before we actually create any states, just to save us some time later. So again, this isn't super intuitive, but I'm sure they'll update versions and make things easier to do later on. So I'm going to click edit right now, and I'm in state 1 in its entirety. There's no other markers or keyframes or anything on my masking timeline there. So I'm going to go ahead and analyze our image here so we can see what we're looking at. Open my preview button. And let's just say this tower here, we want two markers to include this camera's tower and then slowly animate down or something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a marker just like that, just one, just to keep things simple. And we'll go ahead and hit the checkbox there, hit save, and we'll be good to go. And you'll see it update in our image. So there we go. Then all we need to do is, since now state 1 has that marker added to it, we can create a separation, or a keyframe if you will, now that we have a state 1 and a state 2. And now we can edit both states, iterations of that marker that we just added. So I'm going to be hovering over state 1 here, and it doesn't really matter where my playhead is, but I'll just leave it there. I'm going to hit edit, so we open up AutoPano Giga again, and we'll update where that's at. All right. So now I can keep that marker where it's at because that's where I want it to start. Again, so we'll just make sure that's accurate. Hide AutoPano Giga. Nothing updated, obviously, because we didn't change anything. And then I'll come over to state 2 and click edit. It will open up AutoPano Giga. And then I can just drag this marker downward to wherever I want it. So now it's kind of back to where it was originally. Okay. We can even bring it down more. Something like that. Okay, so now it's all the way down, and we are animated. Click Save, hide AutoPano Giga. You'll see that it updates. And right now, there is no duration to this keyframe, or this transition, if you will. So right now, it's just literally not even one frame. It's just a hard cut from one state to the next. So if we jump between these two, you can see that difference there in the bell tower, or in that tower right here. If I jump between these 2 points, you can see that they're obviously different, subtle but different. And if I hit play, you'll notice that everything's fine, and then boom, it cuts to that new state, which might be in some cases what you want, but I would imagine for the most part you'll want to do a smooth transition. So all you have to do now, once you have your two states set up with your marker, or with your keyframe set up in the middle, you can just drag these out to whatever duration you want that transition to be. And then even in addition to just dragging it out, you can actually right-click and hit Edit, and choose the interpolation type for that transition. So that's pretty handy. There's a lot of different options you can choose from depending on what style you're wanting. I'll just leave it linear right now just for simplicity's sake. And let's go ahead and watch this now and see how it looks different. So again, let's keep our eye on where that transition happens so we'll know where to look for it. But you'll see now that the transition is beginning. If we zoom in here, you can see that line coming down. See that stitch line there? That's our marker animating down slowly from our state 1 setup to our state 2 setup. So again, this stitch is good, so technically these lines are going to be very difficult to see since it's a quality stitch anyway, but you get the idea. That's how you animate a marker, and you can do that for multiple markers, you can do it for multiple cameras, etc. But in a nutshell, that's how it's set up, and it's a very, very useful thing to have just in case you end up needing to animate your masks.